time. I want to be very good with time. So come on in. We still got people coming, but I'm sure there'll be people wandering in for a bit, but I want to really respect our time. The goal is an hour or less. We'll see how we do with that goal, but I'm optimistic. So I'm really excited to see so many of you here and still coming in, so that's really exciting. That's deeply encouraging, just so you know. And so as we go to prayer, I'm going to ask Rick, I guess, if he will open us in prayer. Just a special item of prayers. Nobody we know, nobody I know, but I just got word today that one of our fellow pastors in the Mission Northeast Network in Connecticut, Richfield, I think it was the name of the town, but he took his life on Sunday or Monday, and 2 teenage kids. Don't have any more details. I had a couple different Zoom calls today within our network, and people who knew him are still trying to get details. But we were just talking about the toll this has taken on a lot of people, including pastors. And so as we pray for the church, also just think of I'm so good with names. I'm not going to remember what it is right now. But anyway, pray for that church and that family. Connecticut, Richfield, Connecticut. And then just pray for our meeting tonight. Nate. He took his own life, yes. So, all right, so Rick, if you'd open us in prayer.
Good evening, Father.
All right. So you should have notes. If you don't, I think Greg, do you have the extras, or are they up back? Or so if you don't have notes, I think Greg can hook you up with notes. But I think we got everybody. Again, super encouraged by everybody here, and I got a few people who got in touch with me, said that they couldn't make it because I know for the Jay School Board has an emergency meeting tonight to talk about masks. And so TJ and Doug can't be here because of that. Might be some others. And Don and Anita are away. Don talked to me on Sunday. So if you look at your notes, I started with 3 words to talk about as we're coming into spring. The pandemic is not over, but it's easing. Case counts are dropping. We should be able to be a little freer as far as not having to be quite as cautious. Obviously, still being wise. And hopefully more and more people will feel free to engage. And we're just going to, trying to get geared up into what God has for us next. So the 3 words I got there is break, snake, and lake, because I don't know, I felt very rhymey and alliterative. So I don't do that a lot. Some pastors, they got 3 points every Sunday that do that. I don't. So then when I get a chance, it's like I'm pent up. So this is what I meant by the 3 words. You can take notes as you want. I just thought I would do to help for following along. For break, and a lot of these come out of my journey. You guys know I took 3 weeks off, and it was vital that I did that, and I am so... It helped more than I didn't realize how bad I was till halfway through week 2 of the 3 weeks. And so the first half of 3 weeks was kind of like, oh, and the second half of the 3 weeks was starting to finally get some air back in the tire. And as I came back and knowing that I was coming back in to get gearing back in, one of the big things that came out of my 3 weeks of taking some time to stop, think, rest, recuperate, was to come back in with a better workflow, come back in with a better way of managing. So these 3 words go with that. So the first word is break. One of the observations I've had in talking to many of you, including, we are recording this, we're not streaming it, but we'll make it available for those who missed it, is when we hit quarantine, everything kind of stopped. Not for all of us, but for many things quieted down. But I think what happened during that time is, I know I did this, is we started going, oh, you know what, I've got all this stuff that I was going to do around the house, or all these other projects or these hobbies that I've always meant to get to, and now I can do it. And so in many ways, we might have actually got a little busier, and now life is picking back up in more regular ways, and so we're busier than we were pre-pandemic, which is weird. And maybe that's not true of you, but I know that it kind of didn't lessen my load, it added to it. So break, of course, is where you got to stop, got to tap the brakes, at least slow down and realize life has gotten so much busier, and that almost everything we're busy doing is important for one reason or another. We rarely fill our lives with unimportant things, because if it was unimportant, we'd let it slide. Whether it's taking care of the home or the family or the job or some other organization or whatever, we fill it with important things that matter to us. But life has gotten very, very full. Almost everyone I talk to, they'll say, man, the last year, we've been so busy, so stressed, none of them are like, wow, it's been pretty quiet for the last year. I just don't hear people saying that. They might feel more isolated, but I'm not running into people who feel more rested. I'm feeling people busier and more stressed. So that leads to the second word, snake, which I actually got from my friend Chris in Australia. My friend Chris in Australia, who's also a pastor, and he has felt that sense of just overloaded and burdened and tired. Well, in Australia, they have a lot of poisonous animals. Half of Australia is trying to kill you, apparently. And they have a lot of poisonous snakes. And yet all their snakes are protected. So it is not unusual for you to walk into your house or your garage or your outbuilding and find a snake that is highly poisonous. You walk in, oh, there's a snake in the dining room. You are not allowed to touch it. You can't remove it. You definitely can't kill it. You have to get somebody who's licensed to remove it for you, because it is a protected species. My friend Chris is a licensed snake remover. It was something he did as a young man before he got into the ministry. He got it, so he's had it for years, but he hasn't done anything with it. He's a full-time pastor. But during the pandemic, actually Australia was way more locked down for a while, but then as things got busy, he dusted it off. And he didn't hang up his shingle or put an ad in the paper, but he just made people aware that he had his certification, and word of mouth spread, and usually once or twice a week, he's had to go remove a snake. And he told me how valuable that's been for him. Because he says, so many of the things we're doing are just ongoing. You don't quite ever get completely done. You're just working on this and working on this and working on this. He goes, but when I walk into someone's house, they have one need. While I'm doing it, I can't be thinking about anything else, because that snake's trying to kill me. So I have to completely focus in that moment. And I wrangle the snake, and then we're done. And they're happy, the snake's better off, and he goes, and it's helped me feel so much better. And as he's telling me the story, I said, Chris, you know what I need? I need to figure out what my snakes are, because I need some wins where I can just go do something simple, not unimportant, but something small and simple that I can do, and then I'm done, and it feels good. So a couple weeks later, this is before the dead of winter, I went out in my shop, and instead of I don't have a shop, I have a shop that's not set up, so it's a shop that's not a shop. And it's just piled with all the stuff that we moved from my parents' house, and I've never been able to do anything. And so I went out, and normally I go, man, I got to clean my garage. You know how that works. I went out, and I'm like, I'm going to try to clean this spot. And I worked for an hour and a half, and I cleaned that spot, sorted everything. Some of it just went, okay, that's going over there, that pile, to be dealt with later. When I was done, I took a picture of it, and I sent it to Chris in Australia, and I said, I caught a snake. Because it felt great. And I'll tell you, I'm not out there much, but that spot's still clear. It was a little victory. I did something. It was done. Finding what are your snakes? What are small goals that are achievable that you can say, hey, I got something done. The last one is lake. And that was just because I went through the alphabet going, okay, I know what I want for the third one. Is there a rhyming word? Lake was the best I could do. A reservoir. As I was coming back from the break, I was like, I have a limited amount of time and emotional energy. I have tons of things I need to do, tons of things that ought to get done. But again, there's only so much of me, and part of why I needed the break was the lake was dry, such that even small tasks, I was like, I don't want to do them. I'm not enjoying anything anymore. So 3 weeks of keeping the dam closed, some water got back in. The lake, it's not full up, but there's water again. The boats are floating. This is good, I'm like, so now, how am I going to get a better flow where I know where I'm putting my time and resources in a way that's sustainable, so I don't drain the reservoir again, and yet I don't just shut down, because if I just shut down, you guys have to say, well, thanks, you're a good pastor, but we're going to find someone who can do the job. I need to be able to minister, but I need to be able to minister in a sustainable way. So in a limited reservoir, figuring the flow. And so then I alliterated 2 new words, pace and priorities. Where are you directing your energy? And what is the pace? I've totally changed my work schedule. I've totally changed how I do things. I'm only my 3rd week in. This is my 3rd week since the break. But already I'm seeing this is something that's way more sustainable. Of what am I going to spend time on? When am I going to spend time doing it? When is the best time to do that? And finding, okay, this works better. So I have probably accomplished more in the last 3 weeks working less than I did in the last 6 months before the break, because of establishing a more sustainable flow. And so this is what all of you need, because even though your job is different than mine, whether you're working, retired, whatever, your stresses may be different than mine, but I think we're all in a similar boat as far as just like, life. And it's been crazy. And as we manage these things, and then, so here I am coming saying, we're going to have a shepherd's meeting and we expect great things from you. And you're like, I'm already kind of packed out here, and then Ira's going to tell me all the new things he wants me to do. And so before we start talking about what we want to do, I wanted to talk about break, snake, and lake, that we need to, as we work together as a shepherding team, move forward in ministry, we have to do it in ways that are sustainable. And that, for me, one of the things is realizing, all right, I need to think through what are my priorities and what is my pace. And I need something, and I was talking to Tom, who's the IV leader. He and I spent the entire afternoon here until about 4, because Cody met with him last week, and he's been really burned out. He's in first year of ministry, but he's trying to do everything. And I said, Tom, he said, but I got to do this. I was like, until you can't. You got to do sustainable ministry. Now, sustainable for each of us may look a little different, but it's either I'm not doing anything, or I'm doing too much and then I won't do anything. And none of those are good options. So break, snake, and lake. So now let's talk about what that's going to mean for us coming together and moving forward. Community, disrupted, disjointed, diluted. The lockdowns, COVID, whether it was enforced or whether it was personal choice, our community as a church has been diluted, has been disjointed, has been disrupted. It's not gone, Well, I keep running into people I haven't seen in 2 years. Now, when I run into them, the relationship's right there. The community still exists. And we hug, oh, it's so good to see you. And the community's still there. But, hey, it's been 2 years in cases where we just haven't had regular fellowship. And so we're coming back from that. And so our goal is to rebuild that community. But the first blank, if you are taking the notes, the goal is rebuilding community more than rebuilding activity. Rebuilding community, not just seeking to rebuild activity. The goal isn't, and so we need to start doing things again, because that mindset isn't going to be sustainable for us, I think, and that's going to frustrate us quick, and it's going to make you feel under more pressure than you are, not any of our goal. I don't want that, you don't want that. And so keeping in mind that even as we may do activities, our goal isn't to suddenly start to gear up in a bunch of activities. Our goal is going to be, how can we rebuild community? And that may involve activity, but activity isn't our goal. Next point, you are a brick, not a building. You're a brick, not a building. We've been talking about what is the church. The church is us, not you. Us, not me. I'm a brick, not the building. And so it's as we are all together that church will happen. A lot of times we can take on too much. I can take on too much. I mean, I'm paid to do it, right? So I can just take it all on. And tomorrow I'm traveling up to Brewer for our cluster meeting for CB Northeast mission. Now it's Venture Networks Northeast, new name. And talking to some of just these other pastors, they're in rough shape. They all are, because they've been trying to do everything. It's been really hard. They don't have a lot of help. That's why just looking out here and going, wow, faces. Because we're the building, you're not the building, you're a brick. So you're a part of, you're not the whole. And so our goal is working together, each as a brick, each as a piece, but not the whole thing. You're not even a whole wall. Working together to build up the community. Our goal is rebuilding a community that is Christ-centered. Our goal is rebuilding a community that is Christ-centered. Because one of the things that, and if you look at the logo at the top, it says we're a community, not a collection. Everyone's looking to make connections, and we can all have a lot of connections. What's unique about Beans Corner as a connection beyond, like, my whole family, we have a lot of connections over at the mountain. We're very involved over at Titcombs. Sarah's just been over there doing a lesson. Esther does lessons in ski patrol. I do commissary. And that's a neat community over there. And we love being a part of that community. And we've dedicated part of our resources of time and energy to being part of the Titcomb community. I think that's valuable. But this community is unique in that if I invite someone to Titcomb, they may learn to love skiing, which is good, but it's not the same as learning to love Jesus, which is eternal. And so the community that is unique about here, not unique to Beans Corner, but unique to the church community, is that it's an eternal community, Christ-centered, as opposed to just other good things that are not Jesus. And so it doesn't mean we're not going to invest in other communities. Like I said, our family is involved in at least one other community. But that our goal here is rebuilding a community that's Christ-centered. Before I go on, discussion, input, questions, thoughts. I don't want to just sit here and talk to you the whole time while you've got thoughts in your head or anything. Anything you want to react to in what we've talked about so far? Stunned silence. Gives me a chance to take a deep breath. If it encourages you, we're already halfway through the notes. I am near the end here. Jeremy's going to come talk briefly a little bit about community a little more. But I've only got 2 more things here, but we're going to spend a few minutes on them. So all the way through here, the goal is sustainable, investing in building community. So before I go through the priority, let me share with you a little bit about how my workflow has changed. I don't expect my workflow to be something you would emulate, both because you don't have my job. My job is very unique. and because you're also not me personally. One of the things that I came to realize during the break was that I was trying to follow a work schedule that doesn't take into account that me. I'm a weird guy. You already knew that. I've been here forever. Some of you guys are like, oh, we know. Big news. One of the things you may not know, but Beth knows, and my wife knows very well, and Cody knows, is that I have a lot of trouble getting started. Getting started. I got ADD, I guess. I was never diagnosed, but I'm easily distracted. I have a hard time getting started. Once I get started, I have a hard time stopping. So like this afternoon, I was running around taking care of different things, but one of the things I want to do is I want to try to get some dishes done for my wife and get some cleaning done in the kitchen. So I was like, I got a few minutes to do that. Once I got started, even though it was time to leave, one more. And I'm like, I gotta go. One more. Because once I start, it takes me a while to get going, and then I have a hard time stopping. But if I don't take that tendency into account. But I'm like, why am I working as if I'm not like that? Because what I need to do is give myself time to get started, because it's going to take me a while, and if I just put pressure on myself, I don't get done sooner, I don't get started sooner, I just stress more, and it takes me twice as long. But then once I get started, I need to just not say, and I also need to, because then I'll keep interrupting myself and not get one thing done. So now, I'm still you say, are you taking Mondays off? Yes, no. As far as you're concerned, I'm off Monday. Don't try to contact me. But Monday morning I get up and I've just had Sunday, so my brain's still going from Sunday. So Monday I get up and I have coffee, and I get ready, and then I start going, okay, I'm going to work on the lesson. Usually takes me a while, but then I get into it, and I say, and I'm gonna just go until I stop. And so I work on, and I don't work on this Sunday, I work on next Sunday and the following series. And I just start studying, because usually once I start digging in and once I get going, pretty soon I'm like, and this and this and this and this, and I'm starting to write notes and pages. And I'm like, all right, now I need to switch over to this Sunday's message, which I've already worked on for 2 weeks before, because I worked ahead. And then by 2:30, I'm like, I really should stop and eat. But I just outlined 4 weeks of messages, and Sunday's done, and it's Monday at 2:30. So Sunday's done. Beth hasn't seen notes yet because I haven't made a PowerPoint, but the sermon's written. But I outlined next week's too. And I've got a good start on Easter. That's not normal, but that's Monday. And then Tuesday, videos, radio show, recording, and writing. Today I disrupted that because I had to prep for the meeting. But I disrupted it slightly. But you see, this is what I'll work on today, get this done. That's my workflow. Working way better. And it's left me time for, and now I have emotional energy left to make phone calls, reach out to people, starting to reconnect with people. Got a ways to go? Doing that. Using my time more wisely.
So what happens if you took Monday off?
See, the problem with taking Monday off completely is then the message gets pushed to Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Now I'm under pressure, and now I'm stressed. And then Beth's like, Beth, she says that. She's been amazing. As long as I have it by 9 a.m. on Friday when Lisa comes in, we're good. But the thing is, Beth jokes about that, but she's not hard on me. She's really good to me. But I'm at that point stressed, which means I'm working less effectively. But by doing it Monday, and then 2 o'clock, I sit down, I've got a detective show I'm watching, and I'm sitting there, and I'm feeling so much more relaxed because the pressure's already off. And it's done. And I've got 3 more weeks' worth. I got twice as much done as I would on Friday in the same amount of time because of pace. It works for me because once I got started, I just went, and then I stop, and then I can be done. So I got to get back to it. And I'm like, whoa. And then once I start feeling ahead, I feel even more energized. That's just me. That work schedule for somebody else would drive them nuts because they're not geared that way. Because they're a get it started, get it done. I'm like, getting started is terrible. Drives my wife crazy. Not in a bad way, but she's just like, why don't you just go do it? I'm trying. If I knew to not be that way, I would stop being that way. It doesn't work. I'm me, and at 52, odds of this changing don't seem good. Well, but see, it's not. It's again. It's just I'm me. It's who I am. So let's go to these priorities. So as we move forward, what are going to be our priorities of what we can do? Because again, it's what can I do? How can I do it? Pace and priorities. I have a limited amount of energy. How am I going to use it effectively to produce more, instead of just trying to be better and better and better, because that's going to burn all of us out. And right now we're already tired. But there is opportunities to do this well together. So our first priority, which all of you who are here have fulfilled tonight, and those who got back to me have fulfilled, connecting as shepherds. You won't tell me, other than, going, wow, there's a lot of viruses in here now, but it feels good to come in and see people. It feels good because community is its own reward. And so the first thing we have to do is connect as shepherds. And so that's one of the things, so that was one of my priorities. So as I was shooting video and getting ready, I put extra work into trying to connect with you guys. Make sure you got the invitation through the video, and say, we're going to start trying to connect shepherd-wise. Because if we aren't connected, then anything else ain't going to work. And we need to be healthy as a team before we can minister to others. And so one of our first priorities as we go forward from here is you say, okay, if you're going home and saying, okay, now what am I supposed to do next? First priority, first thing to figure out a way to do sustainably over the next week, 2 weeks, is how do I connect other shepherds? Maybe there are people who aren't here, but we've invited to be shepherds, and you'll say, I'm just going to reach out to them. And just say, so how you doing? Not reach out to them to try to get them to do something, just to be connected. It's just to be connected. And say, so how are things going? Man, I haven't seen you in 2 years. How are you? Because that's what I do when I bump into people who I haven't seen for a while, including people who I hope will be shepherds or have been shepherds. I say, so how are you? And I usually get the whole story because they're eager. They've got stuff to unload. So that's our first goal. Just connect. That's why the word for this whole rest of this year is engage. Just connect. No, there's no agenda other than connect. You're part of us. How are you? I just want to be connected. Because that's community. No, that's all. The second priority, and by the way, and as we do that, that's we're bricks, not the building. Because if you were to say, so Ira, we need a shepherding team, so Ira, you should be in touch with all the shepherds. Well, we've got maybe 2/3 of you here, and there's no way I could keep up with all of you. I don't, even if I had the time, which I might be able to free up enough time, I don't got enough energy. I don't got it. That many phone calls, that many visits, I can't do it. I'd be done in a week. I'd be toast. You'd be like, Ira's on another 3-week break. What's going on here? But if each of us do a little, we can do this. We, not me. Bricks, not the building. Second priority, which we'll try to do simultaneously, but it's the second priority. So this next couple of weeks, if you only do one, top priority, priorities and pace, is connecting to the sheep, including new seekers. And that's just the other people who aren't shepherds, but we want to try to connect with. But like this week, this week, I made a priority of Tom, because he's a shepherd. He's shepherding the IVers. So I had a choice this week to connect with Justin, the new young college student who's coming here, who I'm enjoying. He's a great guy. I'm enjoying building a friendship with him. He's new to the faith. Don't know exactly how far along he is, whether he even has, crossed the line into full salvation faith, but he's moving. And we've got a really neat friendship. But this week, if I only have time for one, it was Tom. Not because Justin's not important. I'm eager to see Justin, but if I've got time, I need to take care of the shepherd first. And then maybe next week I'll catch up with Justin or just send him a text, which I'll probably do, just send him a text. Because he's a sheep. He also needs connection, and so I'll do him next. And make those connections. But I got to see him on Sunday for a couple minutes. We didn't get one-on-one time really, but he was here. He heard the sermon, and I talked to him out in the entryway. And so that's why we have 2 points here under the second priority. There are 2 ways we could do the second priority that make it easier. Sunday. Sunday is a huge day for me, not because I preach, but because the amount of contacting I can do because they are here. And you see me running around chasing people out the door. Even if all I manage to do is a quick grab the hand, shake it, and say, hey, it was good to see you, I've connected. Later I go, yeah, I got to see Bill. I got to see Bill and Janet. I mean, it was 45 seconds, but I convey love to them because I care about them. It was so good to see them. Because the likelihood of me calling Bill, Bill, I don't know if I've ever called you. And Bill's been an elder here longer than I've been here, and I've been here 26 years. But yet we have this relationship because we walk into this building and we maintain it even in small bites. And so he's a dear friend. And Sunday is a marvelous way of just, even if it's just for a few minutes, John and I try to get together, but lately we've had trouble. But if I see him on Sunday, I get to see his boys for a few minutes, and we connect. And I can do 30, 40 of those on a Sunday. Is that the whole thing? No. But is it huge? Yeah. Because we can do a lot of shepherding on Sunday just by touching base. Just by touching base. It's not the end all, it's not everything, but it's huge. And then the other one, which is the bigger one as far as deeper, is communities. And that one feels bigger because it's Sunday. Showing up for an hour on Sunday morning seems a little more natural, maybe. But like Sarah and I were in community before COVID. No, was it during COVID? During COVID, we were in Jeremy and Allison's community, and we didn't lead it. We just showed up, and it was an hour and a half. So it was for us less time than Sunday. And all we did is drive in, walk into the upstairs. We met in the upstairs old sanctuary, and we sat there and we watched a video and we talked for a while and gabbed, and then we went home. As far as work goes, for me, it was like effortless. Other than just, you won't believe this, but I get minor social anxiety. I'm like, I gotta go see people. And then I get over here, I'm like, people, because they're my friends. And then my wife's like, Ira, we really got to go. And I'm like, but I'm still talking. Hard to get started, hard to stop. Get it? And, but even though community seems bigger, it's really not. Even if you're hosting it, you guys say, we're going to watch a video now. Play. What do you guys think? That's the work. You could put more into it, but it's real simple. Because the strength of community is not the content. It's the community. It's getting together and just saying, hey. And so as we have these newer people coming in, a chance just to get to know somebody in a smaller group, so it's not just a meaningful handshake and a couple of words on Sunday morning. It's, hey, we share a little bit. We talk a little bit more. It's a little more intimate, a little deeper. And so these are simple. In fact, really part of what has built my friendship over 26 years has been sitting next to each other in choir. Now, Don's always having to say, all right, boys, we get in trouble. Backseat, jibber jabbers. But we talk, and I ask, hey, Bill, what do you think about the message? And we talk about life, and it's in little snippets and singing, but we have fun, we joke, we share, and we build a friendship because we have time together that's in choir. It's a community, even though we're also learning music. So it's so simple just to build those connections. So that's the second priority. Sunday morning in community, we can also build the shepherding connection with one another. But it's just taking advantage of these simple things, which might amount to an hour and a half to 2.5 hours a week at most. And that's if you're doing a community, which they come and go. And then Sunday. And so it's really, when you think about raw amount of time, it's not like, wow, we need an extra 8 hours of your week. Nope. I mean, we take it if you wanted to give it, but that's not the point. It's the connection. That's why I say it's a community, not a collection. And I want our new people who are coming in, to realize, hey, if you come to church Sunday morning, it's not just because you are here. We count who are here Sunday morning because it's good to know kind of what's happening in the big picture. But the raw number by itself doesn't mean much. Because just having a bunch of people here could be good and it could be meaningless. It's not necessarily bad, but it could be meaningless if they just come in, sit here, and go home. Now, if they hear a good message, that's not bad. But the real value is when they come in and connect and form community. And that's one of the reasons you'll know that one of the things I've changed, that my break gave me the idea and the strength to try it, is to switch out and start doing discussion during the sermon. I was unprepared for how well it has gone and how well it's been received. You guys are awesome. I'm like, wow, I tried something new in the Baptist church and everybody liked it on the first go. Whoa. So, and I've already got texts from people who don't go to this church, as far as it's not their home church. They live away, but they love to tune into the feed every week later in the afternoon. So Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, I get my second wave of reactions. And so everyone went, oh, I love the discussion. Then they complained they couldn't hear what people said, and I'm like, well, you're not there. I'm almost done, and then I'm going to give Jeremy kind of the last word. But thoughts, discussion.
Can I go back to where you said connecting as shepherds, because we have a lot of new faces? Can we send out a list of who actually are shepherds to the email?
Yeah, that'd be great.
So that people,
Yep.
I mean, it still may not have faces and names, but
Right, at least names.
know who the other,
Yeah. Yeah, we can send out a list.
they're willing to be shepherds, some maybe will be on the fence.
Right, well, and part of this meeting was to begin to get a feel for who's ready to give it a shot, you know? And again, there's no obligation. I told people there's no obligation to even just come into this meeting, but the goal is to say, man, this is what we're going to try to do. And again, that's why I wanted to emphasize, it's not about an activity, it's about community. It's not about, here's what we're going to, boom, 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 boom.
I'm just going to go back to the connecting part when we talked about newbies or visitors coming in. And it's not so noticeable now where the church is not as full as it was. But prior to COVID, when we were packed out second service and half packed out first service, we had a lot of folks that were coming and not really being connected. And that's why it's important for the shepherds to make the connection. And when I say that, what I mean by that is you get to know them, and then you get to know the gifts. So I'm just going to put someone's name out there. I'm just going to throw Crystal Lyman out there, who was an established pianist. And before COVID, because we got to know her and know her gifts, she came to the nursing home service and played the piano, once or twice, and then COVID just shut it down. So that's the value of shepherds being into the lives of the community, of people that come and go, or some that come and just sit and then they leave. That way we get to know them, we get to know their gifts and abilities, and we put them to work. Because a lot of people are willing to work if you ask them. But if we don't get into their lives, and we don't ask, then we can't ask.
And again, we will tend to give to the community that we value. And it's not that we don't value the church, but sometimes the value has to come from the fact I feel loved. So I'll throw a story with that, talking to Tom on Sunday. And Beans Corner's been very supportive of Tom, and Tom likes it here. But Tom came out of a very different church background that was very much kind of the stuff I'm preaching against right now, as far as you measure up or God's probably ticked. So he tends to fall into that if he's not careful. And so Sunday afternoon we were talking, and I said, and I passed along just because I was talking to Pete Sunday, and I said, I'm having lunch with Tom over there, and Pete knows who Tom is. And I said, we want to really support him. I think he's just working really hard and needs support. And Pete said, well, we really need to take good care of him. That's all he said. That was not a remarkable statement. But I mentioned that to Tom. He burst into tears. And his first reaction was, he goes, I know who Pete is, but Pete knows who I am? I said, of course he does. We all know who you are. You got baptized here, dude. You're part of us. And he became more emotional. He goes, the church knows me? I said, well, maybe not everybody, but many do, and we support you. They do? Yes. And he was overcome with emotion because he said, I guess I never realized. I come Sunday morning, I didn't realize they know me, and I didn't realize they cared. And I don't think we did something wrong there. It shows that, the easy assumptions you can make as far as, because Pete told me that, but Pete hadn't talked to Tom specifically. I don't think that's Pete's fault. But I was like, wow, I felt like I'd fallen down a little as far as, dude, I need to help re-encourage you more, because again, you're a shepherd. You are putting yourself out there for others. You need to know that you're part of a team. And so I told him that. I said, we see your ministry as our ministry. And he was just overwhelmed. And I said, we know you're doing great work. I said, you've got all these IVers here. They come here. They're your kids. And he goes, well, I know that, but I didn't know the church knew that. And I'm like, well, now you do. And I need to do better. But that's that, wow, it didn't take much. It didn't take much just to say, by the way, we care. Oh, you care. Whoa, who knew? Well, I knew, but apparently I hadn't said it enough, which is what we all fall into, right? We mean well, but we didn't realize that we just needed to say it. And again, it's overwhelming. We can't all do all, and you can't look at any one time you mess up. So the one last thing I'm going to talk about, and give Jeremy a couple of words as far as just some of what we're thinking as far as communities. But our next big thing is, let's see, I just did part 2, so part 3, part 4, part 5, and then I'm done Galatians. And then it's the Sunday before Palm Sunday, Easter. So part 3, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so 6. Easter's 6 weeks. Am I doing that right? 6 weeks away? So we have 6 more Sundays, and it's Easter. Easter is a time when you tend to get more visitors, and it's a time when you can tend to have more success creating visitors by saying, hey, how'd you like to come to church for Easter? Because people who might not generally go might be a little more willing. You might still get turned down. So we're going to aim for Easter as far as, I always make sure Easter is aimed towards people who don't go to church much. We're going to increase that this Easter. And the interactive part we may enlarge in some interesting ways, working on it in mind. So just there's a great opportunity to say, hey, Easter we're going to work on just connecting. Because we've got new people. We had 18 member candidates go through membership class last fall. We've had new people. We're back to new people most weeks again. We had a mom, her daughter, and her daughter's daughter here Sunday, who was invited by Virginia Robinson. And they came here, and they obviously have some church background. They're not new to the church thing, apparently. But they were like, whoa, we loved it. They were gushing. They loved Sunday. So I talked to them. Sarah talked to them. I think some other people got a chance to talk to them. God's bringing in people that all we got to do is just, they want to be here. They're excited. I was really excited. The Harris family, they've gone through membership class. We haven't voted them in yet, so I'm not sure if they've hit the year mark yet. They haven't hit the year mark, but they're ready to be members. They're long-term Christians. And their son, whose name I know, but right this minute, Dylan, is that it? No, Ben. Ben. It is Ben. I know it, but it took me 5 tries to get my son's name the other day, so, things are going well. Yeah, I just go through. I did. I went through 4 of them and didn't get it right. So Ben, he's spoken up both weeks into the discussion time, and then we talked more after, because he's got it on. He's got it going. He's a smart young man. He's an adult. So there's a lot of neat, and he's a great one, just a few minutes of connection. A lot of value there. So Easter is our big target for these priorities too. And then, of course, looking to see what we can do for spring communities. And with that, I'll segue to Jeremy, which let me get you a mic, to talk briefly, because I want to wrap up here, under the hour mark, so we got 12 minutes to go. No rush, no pressure, just 3 minutes from us. but to talk a little bit about some of what we're aiming for here, as far as some of the ideas that we're cooking.
So a couple of weeks ago, when I spoke, I talked about being missional, so I'm way ahead here. Just as I want to just give some framework to communities and kind of redraw everyone back together and where we were at. And also, with that said, a lot of times in these discussions and with communities, a lot of people feel like, oh, I want to contribute or I want to do more here. Rick made a really great point a few minutes ago talking about gifting. Okay, this is an incredible team, a very diverse team, and God has called us all into different roles and different things. It doesn't mean that everyone's going to be a community leader. It doesn't mean that everyone's going to be, your gift might be taking care of food. It might be helping people. It might be simply calling people. It might be praying for people. So we all have different things that come to the table. With regards to communities in the spring, I'll be honest with you, it's been a huge struggle for Allison and I. Ira's aware of this over the last year. Rick and Lisa are aware of it. Jim and Nancy are aware of it. They've stepped in the sense that there's been a lot of burden and there's a lot of things, and we've tried to make things happen and just keep things going. And in the midst of this, it's like, okay, we want to support this and we want to allow people to connect. Communities, when we started the community program, when the church started it a few years ago, it was never about the content of what was being offered. It was always about the content always came second to the relationships. So while someone who can connect as well as Ira does with people, that can be a burden in itself for people, because all of a sudden it's really easy to be friendly with people for a few minutes. It's much harder to get into their lives. And when community happens, and if we all sat in a circle this size, most of us would be naturally pretty quiet, okay? This is a big group. This is a great group, and this is spiritually mature people. We don't want to share. But if you put us in a group of 6, 7, 8 of us, week after week, where we start interacting, we start talking about our lives and the struggles that we have and the things that are going on personally, all of a sudden, that relationships and those relationships start building and forming into community. And what you find is and Jim Bridgeberg has been fantastic about it. Jim's just been a cheerleader for it because he and Nancy led a community this past fall, and they just came out of it, and they were just like, it's incredible. Like the relationships that developed out of this. But that also has burden with it, because now all of a sudden it's much easier to be friendly with somebody, to care about somebody, but now we're getting into the dirty part of love, where we have to walk out with people. When people call us and say, hey, my wife's suffering from breast cancer, pray for us. You start dealing with those burdens. So community for this coming spring and how we're looking at it right now, the big vision for it, how we make it happen is to be determined. Yes, we want to have some coursework like we've traditionally done, okay? Using the Right Now Media stuff, we're going to recycle some of the ones that we've already done, like Love Like That, which is a fantastic one. We're also going to try to offer the one that Allison and I presented a couple weeks ago when I spoke. But on top of that, we're really looking at, instead of trying to burden and create this, is looking at much like a stepping stone and offering some community events, okay? And what that would look like is, that could look like, one of the things that used to happen is days where people would come in and help in the spring, a spring cleanup day, okay? Doing a bonfire at night, doing a night of just praise and worship, where it's a community, yes, and that intimacy, okay, isn't going to be as successful. I understand that. But as we start going out and making those connections, as all the shepherding team gets together and starts making those connections, and we invite people, we start to break down some of those barriers. And then the other side of it, in the communities that we've traditionally done, like over the last 2 years, people can jump in, and we have to figure that out, how that's going to look and how that's going to be offered to people. But that's kind of the framework of what we're looking at for spring, because it's just, we're looking at, it's already March. It's going to take people, 2-3 weeks to at least get signed up and to get things going. And it's a big hurdle to jump from our end of it, honestly. And trying to get them in a time frame when, between now and the end. Now, I know there are groups here that have been long going. I know that Cheese is talking about starting up. I know there's some other groups that are going, and they're fantastic, okay? And it's a way that people can connect. But let's be mindful of, like, how do we engage people? How do we get people back involved? And what is God calling you to do? I mean, so we all have different things. So that's kind of it from my end. And you got 5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes. Closing. So yeah, and I'm really excited, even just that idea of we're going to look at doing maybe a couple of big spring events where we can do multiple things at once, like, hey, cleanup day that is followed by a meal and campfire, bonfire. And so just kind of spend the afternoon, get a lot done, be together, have fun, and worship, and people can kind of come and go as need be. But that would be a really fun thing to do, and a chance to just start reconnecting. And with enough help, it wouldn't fall on any one person, because different people could do different things. Like, if somebody's like, I love fire, well, there you go. Just burn things. That's your job. Big fire. How do you do big fire? Okay, that's your job. Or the food. Yeah. Yeah, right. Things like burn. Yeah. All pyromaniacs. Meet Thane out there, and you're just going to set things on fire. And Thane had the largest team of the whole group. It was great.
I think we need more get-togethers too,
So.
because that was always real popular.
Yeah.
I didn't come the first 2 times, but I didn't know what Koinonia.
Koinonia.
I had no idea what that was. It sounded like some weird ritual, and there was no way I was gonna get into that for a while. I mean, really, how would you know?
I'll just call it oikos. That's better, right?
What did you say,
Get
get together?
together.
Bring food? You're a Baptist, you must have a casserole dish.
Well, and that's the goal. It's to create community as we do it. It's the
And that's casual, too.
yeah.
That's what we need.
And that's why I say a lot of, even when we're doing more formal communities, I think they seem bigger than they really are, because they can be pretty casual. When I was in that one, it was super casual. I showed up, sat there, went home. I mean, it was no prep, no study ahead of time. Just show up, watch video, talk to people, went home. It was fun. I still, again, every week, that's right, gotta go. And I was always, honey, we really need to get home. Okay, so, because once you get there, you connect.
I like the idea of you having people read the Bible verse. It seems more like the rest of us are important,
Mhm.
rather than just sit here, but I would do it all.
Right.
I mean, there really is no reason for you to have to do it all.
Well, and my
They're good people.
Well, my goal is to have the shepherds be the one who are reading. The problem is I'm not always good at remembering to email, so then it's when they walk through the door, and so then you're like, well, I'll come to church 5 minutes late, hopefully to miss. So, but then you saw how that worked for Pete Brosey on Sunday, second service. Is there anyone who would like to volunteer, Pete Brosey? And Pete was a really good sport, and afterwards I apologized to him. And I don't know if Pete thinks about these things before he says them. Pete's usually a thinker, but when I said, Pete, I'm sorry, I probably should put you about it. He goes, Ira, anytime. Okay. Anytime. All right. So.
We've gone to other services where they even ask somebody new to come and take correction or something like that, and they can feel like already they're included
Yeah.
in the service. I mean, we don't do correction anymore, but anything to get more people involved.
Yeah.
You're doing the important part with your sermon, but I mean, there's still, well, we could even have other people do sermon. I'd like to see a children's Sunday where the children do the whole thing. They do the sermon, they do the singing, they do that. I think that would be awesome.
Now I'm scared. we have a great group of young people.
But I mean, it makes people feel like everybody's included in this church. It
Yep.
isn't just an Ira church.
Oh,
And I know
heavens
you
to
don't
Bitsy.
want that, but I
Right.
mean,
Yep.
you know what I'm saying? It
Yep.
looks that way
Yep.
when you don't have other people involved.
My buddy. Ruben's got to preach on Sunday. Sarah. Okay. Oh, no. All right. Well, I'm going to close in prayer and we'll mention it. So James and Danelle, we support them as missionaries. James is my childhood friend. They've been in Argentina, and they've been down there for 7 years now, 7.5 years. James made it home one time. Their eldest daughter is home in college, but they have not been able to come as a group because they couldn't get their permanent residency papers. And COVID shut down the government, so they couldn't get their papers from the government and spent so they finally got their papers. And they were due to fly out yesterday. And on their way to the airport, they got a flat tire, missed their flight. So they got it rescheduled for today. They're on their way, but Sarah just got a text from Danelle, and something has gone wrong. She's not sure they're going to make their flight again. So just like if it could go wrong, it might. So just be praying. So I'll pray for the Morels, pray for them. All right, I'm going to close in prayer because I'm at the hour mark, and I wanted to hit that. And thank you so much, all of you, for coming. I appreciate it. You get closer each time. I'm going to grab you up if you get within arm's reach. Father, I just thank you for this group. I thank you for the team that's here tonight. I just thank you for the people you've been bringing in, the new people who have been joining us, the people who have been here, in some cases, for a very long time. I just thank you for the team and for the body. I just thank you for the spirit that exists here at Beans Corner. I thank you for the people who come in and feel loved, and for the people who are enjoying coming and they're hearing your word, and in some cases they're getting saved. Lord, we're just excited to see your hand at work. This is your church, not our church. And we thank you that we see your faithfulness as you are working. Lord, as we are your hammers, your screwdrivers, your levels, all the different tools that we are in your toolboxes, I pray you'll use each of us in our own unique gifting and with what we have available in the time and resources and gifts that we have, that you will use us together to build one another up and to build up your church. And Lord, that we will see people growing, maturing, and even sometimes just surviving, Lord, but as we take care for one another. Lord, I thank you for the long history of loving community this church has that has drawn us here. It's why we're here, because this has been a place where we have heard your word, but we've also been loved. So, Lord, I just pray that you'll help us as we move forward, especially as we try to open back up in more and more ways. I just thank you for the people here and the people who would have been here tonight if they could have. Lord, just continue to move us forward. Take us home safely. We pray for James and Danelle and the kids as they try to be able to get their flight and get back here in the United States. And we look forward to being able to see them and meet them face to face as we have supported them in their ministry for the last 7 years. We just thank you for all our missionaries and all those who are serving. We pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you, guys.